Good morning, everyone. My name is Amir Khan, for better or for worse. I've already had a gag about my name, so I'll get this out of the way. For those expecting the boxer, I am not him. You can leave now, by the way, if you want. I am a lot slower. My chin is slightly stronger, though, so it's a boxing joke for you guys, for the enthusiasts. Zivver is a smart, secure email solution provider that integrates into your existing email technology, such as Outlook and Gmail, to provide enhanced functionality and security. But I'm not going to bore you with that. Today, I'm going to share the stats from a latest research that we've conducted, independent market research across Europe, US, and the UK, to understand what people see as their biggest risk when it comes to email security. And again, at the end of this presentation, I'll be focusing on how we can translate that to how we've already helped over 10,000 customers in the public and private sectors, and how we can potentially help your organizations as well. So, one of the things that we did last year was interviewed over 400 IT decision makers, but more importantly, we interviewed 2,000 employees to ask them what the biggest vulnerabilities were from an email security point of view. What we discovered was 24% of IT decision makers actually see that their security posture is really well aligned with the risk that they see. However, 68% of IT leaders, more surprisingly, said sometimes they focus more on perceived risks rather than actual risks when it comes to where they spend their money. I can see a lot of nods. I'm glad you guys agree, because I was going to really stick my neck out there. Which is surprising because, as you know, logic would dictate you need to know what the problem is before you can solve it. But again, that is what we saw. That was what was surprising. So we asked them, what was your biggest vulnerability when it came to 2025? And this is what we got. So what we got from over 400 IT decision makers was that employees using unauthorized platforms. I'm going to use a word which normally sends a shudder down IT leaders' spine. WeTransfer was up there. Lack of awareness or understanding when it came to cybersecurity issues from employees was another big one. Increasing use of data sharing and collaboration tools, some authorized, some not. And too many separate security solutions, as in lack of integration. You see, again, more nods, which is really good. I'm glad Becky, who's at the back of the room, has put these slides together for me. So thank you, Becky, because it is resonating. The biggest thing that we got from there was IT decision makers, all they want to do is protect employees. And I think sometimes that comes at a cost of actually usability and the ability to, I guess, do the simple thing, which is lock everything down. And that's normally seen as the most secure way of doing it. But what we've seen in that case is that's when you get shadow IT. You get employees using solutions that they probably shouldn't, and they will put that down to just wanting to get their job done. And I think that is fair, even if it's not the right thing to do. So we essentially seen from IT leaders is they want to protect people, and employees just want to get their job done, and there's a misalignment between the two. So the next part, I'm going to focus on essentially what the biggest mistakes are when it comes to email relations. So I'm actually going to get you guys involved in the next part of this. So what we saw was over 50% of employees admit to making email-related mistakes. So I'm going to get all of you guys to put your hands up, please, if you can. I hope you've had your coffee this morning. No, it's perfect. If everyone can raise their hand, yeah, and you can lower your hand if you have sent the wrong attachment to someone. You can lower your hand if you have never emailed the wrong person. There's a few liars here. You can lower your hand again if you've incorrectly or incorrectly used BCC or CC. Good. I think we've interviewed 50% of this room. But as you can see, right, we're meant to be leaders in this space, but even we make those mistakes because, again, ways of working are changing. Working from home increases that risk. Working in a non-work environment can also increase that risk as well. But equally, everyone makes mistakes, right? We are humans after all. But that is the biggest problem that we see when it comes to email security. So the next part of my presentation will focus on what can be done to prevent stuff like this from happening, and why is it important to be done right now. So we've got two legislations coming up, the Data Use and Access Bill, and equally the Cybersecurity Resilience Bill in this year, which focuses very much on ensuring that IT leaders such as yourself have the right tools in place when it comes to sharing sensitive data. And that is exactly what we saw from our report. A lot of IT leaders are putting a lot of the investment on ensuring that people can collaborate properly, but do it securely. And I think the biggest thing we saw was having a tool that integrates with other tools. So not putting an email security tool that doesn't integrate with Outlook, because you're expecting people to have two different ways of working, which will never work, because the default will always be email. And as we know, email is completely insecure by default. The other one is, again, the main one that we see is compliance with the regulations, but equally a solution or one solution that does it all. And I think that's where the market sometimes falls down, where there's a lot of niche providers doing a lot of different things, but not really well integrated. And I think more and more organizations are wanting one solution that does it all. If you look at some of the M&A activity within our segment, a lot of big providers are now procuring or buying up a lot of the smaller providers to kind of offer one big offering rather than having lots of broken up little offerings, because it makes it easier, it makes it seamless, and it makes it easier for IT leaders to implement and equally monitor the behaviors as well. And then again, you can see the difference between the inbound and outbound. People are still keen to focus more on inbound and outbound. Does anyone know when we talk about inbound and outbound email security what we mean? Perfect. I've got one person. Would you mind sharing it for the room?
Inbound security would be about protecting against accidental phishing emails and stuff like that. Outbound security is checking against accidental data extraction.
I'm so glad you sat at the front. That was really good. That's perfect. For those that didn't hear it, inbound is focused a lot more on phishing and malware and ransomware attacks. Outbound is essentially the collaboration and sharing of that data, i.e. people making mistakes in email. Thank you very much. Really helpful. So, what are the key takeaways from us, from our presentation? I think IT leaders need to expand their focus. I think that's fair to say. So not just focus on inbound, but equally outbound. Align your investments. I think that's key. If you know what the perceived risks are, then you can spend the money wisely. And transform awareness. And I think the last one for me is key. I think make it relevant and make it right size. And I think that is easier said than done, because you will have employees on the entire spectrum of IT literacy. Some very IT literate, some not so. So how do you make sure that you don't burden those that know what they're doing to protect those that don't know what they're doing? And I think that's one of the key takeaways that I saw from our presentation and our research. And we actually did a webinar recently where with one of our largest customers in the UK. It's a council in the north of England. And they spoke about, and the chap there spoke about making sure that you don't burden people. And I think that's key. And obviously our solution, like it seems like every solution out there, leverages AI to ensure that we make the right decisions. But I think the key takeaway from us, and I think I stand by this, is no solution is foolproof, including ours. People will still make mistakes. Human error will always be there. But how do you make sure that you give your employees or your colleagues the ability to work freely, knowing that should they make a mistake, there's technology there to make sure that it's not a huge mistake, or it's not a mistake that they can't recover from, or it's something that's so catastrophic to the business. And I think this is a really key quote, so we put this in here, because people will always make mistakes. It's your job to make sure that they don't make them so catastrophic that you can't recover from it. I did say I won't talk too much about Zivver. I've got 4 minutes. I'll make it very quick about Zivver. So who are we? It wouldn't be me, right, if I didn't speak about us. But who are we? So Zivver Secure Email is essentially your one-stop shop for your inbound and your outbound solutions. We integrate into your existing email technology. We're currently doing that for over 11,000 organizations, including some of the biggest law firms in the UK and the world, and equally some of the biggest public sector organizations across the UK as well. And the big thing that we have across all our customers is the fact that we focus both on the outbound and inbound. Traditionally, we're an outbound provider with a huge focus on human error prevention, but equally, security that's integrated into existing ways of working. But we now have an inbound suite of solutions as well. And then just going to focus on one of our customers, because I think it's quite a key case study. Calderdale Council actually came to us because their existing security posture was perfect until it wasn't. And I think they had all the tools. They had M365, they had E5 licenses with tooltips in place to make sure that users were being prompted when they were emailing out. And what happened? A data leak happened. They emailed someone, and again, it wasn't a catastrophic one, but it was enough for someone to go, actually, my data was mishandled. So they came to us, they wanted a solution that was fully integrated into the existing ways of working, but added an additional layer of security. So what Zivver was able to do was implement itself, made a banner across their email, which communicates with the senders to say, you're composing a message that contains X information, and your organization policy dictates that you send this encrypted, or a lot more forceful, i.e., you're about to make a mistake, we're going to encrypt this, so we give you the ability to recover, or you can't do that, stop it. So we give you that ability. We see ourselves as an enabler rather than a blocker, but we do know sometimes people do need blocking. And that's essentially what the requirements were, and this is how we were able to help them. We integrated into the existing ways and offered a robust reporting functionality as well. So it gave you a full overview of everything that was leaving your organization and now essentially coming into your organization as well. And yeah, they became a case study. I'm not going to read the stat, and I also know this is not Nick Lunn because I met him. This is just a standard image. But again, I am 2 minutes ahead of schedule, so I will stop there before I get told off. I'm being good. I'm being good today. But thank you very much for listening. Thank you for participating, and equally, thank you for putting your hands up because it's quite difficult to admit mistakes. If you want to talk to us, we're literally by the croissants, and I promise you, I won't ask you a question if you've got a mouthful. Thank you very much, guys. Cheers.